Let us begin by asking a simple question. What is truth? Is it just the opposite of a lie? Is it something we find in books or hear from others? Or is it something deeper, something personal, something that changes who we are? Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, spent his life asking this question. To Nietzsche, truth was not just a set of facts. It was a way of living, a way of seeing the world with open eyes, a way of standing face to face with reality even when it hurts. Nietzsche believed that most people live in lies, not because they are bad or evil, but because lies are easier. Lies are comfortable. We lie to ourselves about who we are. We lie about what we want. We lie about the world around us. We tell ourselves stories to avoid pain, to avoid responsibility, to avoid change. But Nietzsche says, this is the source of our weakness. This is why we feel lost. This is why we feel powerless, because we are not standing on solid ground. We are building our lives on illusions. The first step to becoming unstoppable, according to Nietzsche, is to see the truth, to face it, to live it, no matter how difficult it is. Now, Nietzsche's idea of truth is different from scientific truth. It is not about numbers, formulas, or objective measurements. Instead, Nietzsche's truth is existential. It is about the truth of your being, the truth of your desires, your fears, your motives, and your path in life. Let me explain this more clearly. Imagine someone working a job they hate. Every morning they wake up and feel heavy. They go to work, not with joy, but with dread. They smile at their coworkers. They follow the rules, but inside they feel dead. Why do they stay? Maybe they say, I need the money, or this is just how life is, or everyone else is doing the same. But deep down, there is a truth trying to speak. The truth might be, I am afraid, or I don't know what I really want, or even, I've never allowed myself to dream. That quiet voice, pushed down and ignored, is what Nietzsche wants us to hear. To Nietzsche, facing this inner truth is an act of courage. It is the beginning of power. Because when we finally see what is real, we can begin to act with clarity, with freedom, with strength. Nietzsche writes often about masks. He says people wear masks to fit in, to be accepted, to feel safe, but the mask becomes a prison. We forget who we are behind it. So the path to truth is the path of removing the mask. Not to show the world who you are, but to show yourself. To remember, to wake up. This is why Nietzsche's philosophy is not about comfort. It is about growth. It is about transformation. Like a fire that burns away what is false so that what is true can remain. He calls this inner journey the path of the higher man, or the Übermensch. This word is often misunderstood. It does not mean a perfect or superior person in the usual sense. It means someone who has gone beyond, someone who has overcome, someone who has faced their truth and become more because of it. To reach this state, Nietzsche says we must be willing to suffer. Not suffering for its own sake, but the kind of suffering that comes from honesty. The kind that comes from facing your own darkness. Because the truth is not always pleasant. Sometimes it reveals weakness. Sometimes it brings pain. But Nietzsche says, this pain is not the enemy. It is the doorway. Let me give you an example from Nietzsche's own life. He lived much of his life in solitude. He was often sick. He was often rejected. His books did not become popular until after his death. He knew what it meant to be lonely, to be misunderstood, to be in pain. But he did not run from this. He used it. He turned his suffering into insight. He once wrote, What does not kill me makes me stronger. But this is not just a motivational quote, it is a deep truth. Nietzsche is saying, the wounds we carry can become our teachers. The pain we feel can become our power, if we choose to learn from it. But first, we must stop pretending. We must stop lying to ourselves. This is why Nietzsche speaks so strongly against what he calls slave morality. This is a mindset that teaches people to be small, to be obedient, to follow the rules without question, to call weakness a virtue and strength a sin. Nietzsche believed that this mindset comes from fear. Fear of life, fear of truth, fear of freedom. It is a way of avoiding the hard work of becoming who you are meant to be. Instead, Nietzsche urges us to embrace what he calls the will to power. This does not mean domination over others. It means the inner drive to grow, to create, to express your truth fully, to become the artist of your own life. He says, become who you are, not who others want you to be, not who you were trained to be, but who you truly are, underneath the noise. And that is why truth makes you unstoppable. Because when you live from truth, you are no longer driven by fear. You are not chasing approval. You are not hiding. You are standing firmly in reality, and that makes you powerful. Now let's take a moment to understand why most people avoid this path. It's simple. Truth is hard. It asks something from you, it challenges you, it breaks your illusions. And most people are not ready for that. They want comfort. They want certainty. They want a guide to tell them what to do. But Nietzsche says, there is no guide. No one can tell you your truth. You must discover it yourself. And that is why this path is not popular. It is lonely. It is uncertain. It is risky. But it is also real. And once you taste that realness, even for a moment, you will never want to go back. You will never want to live in lies again, because you will feel the power that comes from truth, the freedom, the clarity, the inner fire. Let me return to the image of the mask. When you take it off, you might feel exposed, vulnerable, afraid. But over time, something beautiful happens. You begin to breathe, you begin to see clearly, you begin to move with purpose. That is the first step to becoming unstoppable. Not running faster, not working harder, not pretending to be strong, but becoming real. And from that place of truth, you begin to change, slowly, deeply. You stop wasting energy on lies. You stop trying to be what you are not. You begin to build your life on what is solid, what is real, what is true. This is what Nietzsche offers us. Not a system, not a religion, but a challenge, a mirror, a path, the path of truth. In the next part of this series, we will explore how this path of truth leads to transformation. How the pain we face becomes the soil for growth, and how embracing our truth, even in suffering, gives us the strength to become unstoppable. But for now, let me leave you with a question. What lies are you telling yourself? What truth are you afraid to face? Because somewhere in that truth is your freedom, and in that freedom is your strength, and in that strength is your future. In the first part, we explored Nietzsche's belief that truth is the foundation of power, that only by facing our truth without lies, without masks, can we begin to live a life of strength and meaning. Now we go deeper. Because the path of truth is not gentle, it is not easy, it is a fire, a burning away of everything false, so that what is true can stand. But Nietzsche does not want us to run from this fire. He wants us to walk through it, to allow it to change us, to allow it to purify us. This is the second step in becoming unstoppable, the step of transformation. And transformation always involves suffering. Now, when most people hear the word suffering, they think of pain, of hardship, of loss. And Nietzsche does not deny that. He was familiar with all of it: physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain. But he believed that suffering could be more than just something to survive. He believed it could be something sacred. Let me explain. Imagine a piece of raw iron, cold, unshaped, full of potential but not yet useful. Now imagine placing that iron into a forge, exposed to fire, to heat, to pressure. It begins to melt, to soften. It glows, it screams. But something is happening. It is being transformed. The blacksmith does not destroy it. He reshapes it. He takes what is rough and makes it strong. He turns the shapeless into a blade. This is Nietzsche's view of suffering. He believed that suffering, when faced with courage, has the power to shape the soul, to strengthen the character, to awaken the self. But this only happens when we stop running from it. And this is the key difference between passive suffering and active suffering. Passive suffering is when we complain, when we blame others, when we feel like victims. It leads to bitterness, to resentment, to weakness. Active suffering is different. It is when we take responsibility, when we ask, what can I learn from this? What part of me needs to change? What is this pain trying to show me? This is not easy, but Nietzsche says it is necessary. Because if you avoid all suffering, you also avoid all growth. There is a deep quote by Nietzsche. He says to give style to one's character, a great and rare art. What does this mean? It means taking the raw materials of your life, your wounds, your mistakes, your failures, and turning them into something beautiful, something intentional, something powerful. Just like an artist does not reject the ugly parts of his painting, he uses them, he shapes them, he turns them into meaning. This is what it means to become unstoppable, not by avoiding pain, but by using it, by turning your suffering into strength. Now let's look at another key idea in Nietzsche's philosophy. The will to power. This phrase is often misunderstood. Some think it means domination, power over others. But that is not what Nietzsche meant. The will to power is the deep inner drive that exists in all living things, the drive to grow, to expand, to express, to create. It is the force behind evolution, behind art, behind invention. It is the hunger for life, for becoming, for overcoming. Nietzsche says that human beings are not static. We are not meant to stay the same. We are meant to evolve. But this evolution does not happen by chance. It happens by choice, by choosing to face truth, by choosing to endure suffering, by choosing to create meaning. He says man is a rope stretched between the animal and the overman, a rope over an abyss. What does that mean? It means we are not finished, we are not complete, we are something in between. We are capable of sinking into fear, into laziness, into despair. But we are also capable of rising, of transcending, of becoming something greater. And the bridge between those two states is the will to power. When you choose to grow, even in pain, even in confusion, you are walking the rope. You are moving toward the higher self, the stronger self. Nietzsche does not offer comfort, he offers challenge. But it is through challenge that we grow. He wants us to live dangerously, not recklessly, but boldly. He says, build your cities on the slopes of Vesuvius. That is, live close to the fire, to intensity, to the edge. Why? Because only at the edge do you wake up. Only there do you find out what you are made of. This is not about being fearless. It is about acting despite fear, about choosing growth over safety. Now let us pause and consider something. What are the moments in your life that truly shaped you? Were they easy? Were they smooth? Or were they full of difficulty, of pain, of uncertainty? Nietzsche would say, that is the forge. That is where you were being shaped, not broken, formed. He believed that the deeper the suffering, the deeper the potential for transformation. That the most powerful people are often those who have suffered greatly, but who chose to rise. He writes, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." This means, if you find your purpose, your truth, your reason, then no pain can destroy you. Because your pain becomes part of your path, part of your strength. But without that why, even small suffering feels unbearable. That is why Nietzsche insists on facing truth first. Because your truth contains your purpose, and your purpose gives meaning to suffering, and that meaning gives birth to strength. Now let's look at the role of creation. Nietzsche often speaks of artists, of creators, of builders. He believes that each of us must become a creator, not necessarily of art, but of life. You must become the sculptor of your own soul, the designer of your own destiny. This is what he means by becoming who you are, not discovering yourself like a hidden object, but creating yourself like a work of art, through decisions, through action, through truth. This requires responsibility, radical responsibility. You cannot blame others. You cannot wait for the world to change. You must act, and action requires truth. If you are lost in lies about who you are, what you want, or why you suffer, you cannot create. You will only repeat. Nietzsche's path is not for those who want comfort. It is for those who want depth, for those who are willing to suffer in order to grow, for those who are willing to burn in order to shine. And that leads us to another powerful idea: eternal recurrence. Nietzsche asks a strange question. He says, imagine that you had to live your life over and over again, exactly the same. Every detail, every joy, every pain, every moment. Would you say yes? Would you embrace it? Would you love it? He calls this the greatest weight because it forces you to consider, am I living a life worth repeating? If the answer is no, then something must change. If the answer is yes, then you have found your truth. This is not a literal idea. Nietzsche is not saying time repeats. He is saying, live as if it does. Live with such intensity, with such purpose that you would not regret a single moment. That is the sign of a powerful life. A life lived from truth. A life transformed through suffering. A life driven by the will to power. Now let us bring all of this together. To be unstoppable, you must do three things. First, face the truth, even when it hurts, even when it scares you. Second, embrace your suffering, not with passivity, but with purpose. Let it shape you. Let it strengthen you. Third, act with power, not over others, but over yourself. Create your life. Live with purpose. Become who you are. This is the way of Nietzsche. Not the way of the herd, not the way of comfort, but the way of fire, the way of transformation, the way of the unstoppable. In the final part of this series, we will explore what it means to become the Übermensch, not as a fantasy, but as a way of life, a way of walking the earth with power, with clarity, and with deep freedom. For now, reflect on this. What pain have you been avoiding? What lesson might it hold? What would it mean to stop running and start creating? Because the fire is not your enemy. The fire is the way. In the first two parts of this journey, we explored the foundation of Nietzsche's philosophy, the importance of facing truth, the necessity of suffering, and the power of transformation. Now, we arrive at the final step, the ultimate goal, the emergence of the Übermensch. The German word Übermensch has often been misunderstood. It has been translated as Superman or Overman, but these words can be misleading. Nietzsche is not talking about a comic book hero. He is not talking about someone with physical strength or dominance over others. He is talking about a new kind of human being, a person who lives from truth, a person who has faced suffering and been transformed by it, a person who creates their own values, lives with purpose, and walks through the world with clarity, strength, and grace. This, for Nietzsche, is the future of humanity, not a race of perfect people, but individuals who dare to rise above the herd, who dare to become themselves. Let's start with a simple image. Imagine someone who does not need to pretend, someone who does not need approval, someone who is not afraid of pain or rejection or uncertainty, someone who knows who they are, who lives from within, who walks with peace and power. That is the spirit of the Übermensch, not someone above others, but someone above fear, above falsehood, above dependency. And Nietzsche believed that each of us carries the potential to move in that direction. But not everyone will, because it takes everything. It takes courage, it takes honesty, it takes deep responsibility, and above all, it takes love. Love for life, love for truth, love for becoming. Let me explain. Nietzsche says that most people are trapped in what he calls the herd. These are people who follow without thinking, who live by rules they never questioned, who seek comfort, not truth, safety, not strength. The herd avoids responsibility. They say, "This is just how things are. I'm just doing what I was told. It's not my fault." But the Übermensch says, "I choose, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it means walking alone." Because freedom is not about doing whatever you want. It is about choosing your life with full awareness and full responsibility. The Übermensch does not run from suffering. He embraces it. He does not deny death. He includes it. He does not escape life. He creates it. And this act of creation is the heart of Nietzsche's vision. He believed that we are not fixed beings. We are becoming, and the question is, what are you becoming? Are you becoming more honest, more courageous, more alive, or are you shrinking? Falling asleep, running away? The Übermensch is not an endpoint. It is a direction, a horizon, a call to rise. Now let's go deeper into what it means to create your own values. Nietzsche said that many of the values we follow today are not life-affirming. They are life-denying. They come from fear, from guilt, from weakness. He called this slave morality. It teaches people to be obedient, not free, to be humble, not bold, to feel shame for their desires, to see ambition as sin, to see strength as cruelty. Nietzsche wanted to turn this upside down. He believed in what he called life-affirming values, values that support growth, creativity, joy, power, expression. He believed that we must each ask, what values do I live by? Are they mine, or were they given to me? Do they lead me to life, or do they keep me small? The Übermensch does not borrow values, he creates them, not to rebel, but to live truly, to honor his inner voice, to walk his own path. And this is not selfish. It is sacred. Because when you live your truth, you give others permission to do the same. When you live with power, you lift others by your example. When you live with joy, you remind others that life is beautiful. This is why Nietzsche believed that the Übermensch is not cold or cruel, he is full of life. He laughs, he loves, he creates, he gives. But from a place of fullness, not need, from a place of strength, not fear. Now let us talk about freedom, real freedom. Nietzsche did not believe in freedom as the absence of limits. He believed in freedom as the mastery of self. Because if you are ruled by fear, you are not free. If you are ruled by guilt, you are not free. If you are ruled by what others think, you are not free. Freedom means becoming the ruler of your inner world. It means saying yes to what is true for you, and no to what is false, even if that means standing alone, even if that means being misunderstood, even if that means beginning again. The Übermensch is free not because he avoids limits, but because he chooses them. He sets his own path, his own rules, his own rhythm. And this leads to joy, not pleasure, not distraction, but deep joy. The joy of living in harmony with your truth, the joy of rising after every fall, the joy of creating meaning in a meaningless world. Nietzsche did not believe that life gives us meaning. He believed we must give life meaning. And that is the task of the Übermensch, to create, to affirm, to love life, not just the easy parts, but all of it, even the suffering, even the loss, even the uncertainty. This is why Nietzsche said, amor fati, love your fate, not accept it, not tolerate it, but love it. To say yes to everything that happens, to say, this too is part of my path. This too is part of my becoming. That kind of love makes you unstoppable. Because it means nothing can destroy you. Everything becomes fuel. Everything becomes fire. Now let's return to the question we asked at the very beginning. What does it mean to be unstoppable? Nietzsche would say, it means to live in truth, to embrace suffering, to create your own values, to become who you are. It does not mean you will never fall. It means you will rise every time you fall. It means your spirit cannot be broken. Because it is not based on lies, not based on masks, not based on others. It is rooted in truth. And truth is eternal. The unstoppable person is not perfect. They are real. They are awake. They are alive. And that is the invitation Nietzsche offers to each of us. Not to become someone else, but to become ourselves fully, boldly, beautifully, to stop waiting, to stop hiding, to step into the fire and be transformed. This path is not for everyone, but if you feel called, if something deep in your soul says yes, and then you already know, you are not here to live a quiet life of fear. You are here to rise, to become, to overcome. This is the path of the Übermensch. This is the path of the unstoppable, and it begins now with a choice to face your truth, to walk into the fire, to love your fate, and to become who you are.